There's been an issue for quite some time now in Hollywood where originality has struggled to break through, and instead they've relied on remakes and reboots to get people into the cinema. But with many of these films failing to deliver, people have looked elsewhere for entertainment, and that's been a big benefit for world cinema. An example of this was 2024's I'm Still Here from Brazil, which was a superb movie with a fantastic performance by Fernando Torres. And this year, 2025, we have another film from Brazil called The Secret Agent. First things first, I have to say congratulations to Brazil, because this is the second year in a row that a Brazilian film has been nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars, thanks to the nomination for The Secret Agent. And also well done to Wagner Moura, because he got nominated for Best Actor as well. I don't think he has as strong a chance as Fernando Torres did last year in her category with this Best Actor nomination, because I think Marty Supreme's Timothée Chalamet will probably get the win there. I think he's a strong favourite, but for him to be nominated is well deserved. There are actually some similarities between I'm Still Here and The Secret Agent, because they are both set during the 70s in Brazil, at a time of political turmoil thanks to the Brazilian military dictatorship. And with a title like The Secret Agent, I thought this might have been a spy thriller, but instead it is a political thriller, and it has a very strong start as we see Armando here, played by Wagner Moura, arrive at an Esso petrol station in his yellow Beetle. There's a corpse on the floor which has been there for a week or two, just covered by a piece of cardboard, I think it was. And you're like, what is going on here? And then the police arrive as well to ask about that, but also to search Armando's car. And it's a very tense scene. It really gets you right into the situation that Brazil is in at this time. And yeah, it's one of those openings where it just gets you straight into the action, but it's not action, it's just the action of this time period. Once Armando leaves the petrol station, he travels to Recife, and under an alias, he takes refuge with Dona Sebastiana, along with some other refugees. And while in Recife, he also visits his young son, who's been staying with his in-laws ever since the passing of his wife Fatima. Now, the first hour of this film, it does take its time with the setup, which could be looked on as being boring or slow, but I don't mind seeing it set its stall out and introduce all the characters, and things like a leg being found inside a shark, and you're like, how is this all going to connect? Like, I have all these jigsaw pieces, but how is this all going to fit into place? Eventually, Armando gets a job at an identity card office, where he also has a few encounters with the police chief, which are a bit nervy for him, and also he's trying to find out more information about his mother. So a lot of the time in the film, he is going through different files and trying to access these files to get that information. However, we don't really get that much tension between the police and Armando. Instead, it's more so with these hitmen, Bobby and Augusto. You keep going back to them, during the film, knowing that they're eventually going to meet up and catch up with Armando. It's just when and how explosive this climax will be. So you have Armando, you have the police, you have these hitmen, you have the refuge. Armando gets with a woman at the refuge as well. He has his in-laws and his son. So there's a lot going on here, and also all these other bits of random information. And the scenes with his son are sweet and necessary just to get closer to Armando as a character. His son really likes the film Jaws, but he wants to see it, but he's too young to go and watch it. And so, yeah, you understand that father and son relationship quite well. But then also there is quite a few scenes of sexual acts in the movie as well, especially towards the first half. And there's even an amusing one happening in the cinema where his father-in-law works.
I like where this is going. Giggity, giggity, giggity.
So you have lots of stuff happening in the film, but then suddenly it jumps to present day, and we see this girl called Flavia. She's on the computer, and she's listening to audio recordings from this time period of Armando speaking. And you're like, why have we jumped forward in time here? And I understand them trying to signal importance of what happened in the past by introducing the present day, but I think it would have been better for the film to have established more clarity of the past first before introducing this present day commentary, because it just made it a bit too much to juggle. Once we get to a scene upstairs in the cinema with Armando, his father-in-law, and the leader of the political resistance movement, that's where the film really starts to anchor itself down, and we get lots of scenes through the use of flashbacks, which can be seen as being a bit too exposition heavy, but some of these scenes were the best scenes in the film. One including a dinner scene with Armando and Fatima, the only scene with Fatima, and that's a shame because I would like to have seen more of Fatima, but this scene was great. It really understands how she was, and also how everything began in terms of him being hunted, and his former life of being a professor as well. So these were, critical scenes. It's just how they introduced them in the film wasn't so great. And there's lots of things in this film where it's like, if you could do a slightly different edit here, this would be perfect. But it just feels like this has really been a bit mishmashed together and doesn't create a great flow from the movie structurally. The Secret Agent has a runtime of around 2 hours and 40 minutes. And it's not one of those films where there's not enough content here for it to be deserving of that runtime. There's plenty. There's a lot. This film has a lot to say. But the way it manages all the different things they want to say is not well done. And so there are things like, for example, they go and speak to a German man at one point, and that's fine, but that could have easily been removed and the film wouldn't have been that much different because they didn't really go further with that point they're trying to make. Similarly, the film spends quite some time with Armando as he's looking for his mother's identity card, and that's fine, but it just feels like there's a lot of emphasis on that compared to actually showing us more scenes that that are related to his past and with his wife, to really increase that intensity and that severity of the situation. Instead, we got scenes like a lengthy CGI scene, which wasn't really needed. Like, it was fine as a joke, but know what to prioritize here. Have a jokey CGI scene, or build up those feelings of suspense and tension as we move into the latter parts of the film. Overall, with The Secret Agent, it's a fine but flawed movie, and you do feel a bit shortchanged at the end because there's a reveal which sort of tells you what you want to actually see in its entirety. So it's like, show, don't tell. So it does feel like it didn't really stick the landing, and the film just feels like it tried to juggle too many things and it lost its way a bit. But when you have such a strong performance by your lead actor, Wagner Moura, he does carry the film through some more difficult moments, and it makes it a worthy watch. Not quite to the same level as I'm Still Here, but still worth the watch. And Wagner Moura is well deserving of that Oscar nomination. As well as the film itself, it is worthy of that Best Picture nomination, although it is probably one of the weaker entries of this year. So what are your thoughts on The Secret Agent? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one.